Couple things, injury-wise first, nothing to report that's of any significance. We came out of the game pretty clean, which is positive. We'll see how some of these guys come back that have been out. We will open Cheeto's window this week to return to practice. That doesn't necessarily mean he'll return to the roster to play this week. We'll see where he's at, let him practice, see where he goes from there. Hopefully that's a shorter than the full allotment of 3 weeks, but we'll just see where he's at. And then just on the game, a lot of the things that I felt last night, I still feel today. There's a lot of really, really good things that happened in all three phases. But there's still plenty of things that we got to do better and clean up. We haven't arrived by any stretch. It was a good win, good road win against a divisional team. I thought the guys played a winning brand of football for most of the game, and it allowed us to have a chance to win. But certainly things that we got to do better in all three phases and clean up, and hopefully we can do that this week. A couple things that I thought were to point out. Scored on our first 3 possessions. That was really good. To get off to a fast start is one of the things that we had talked about offensively all week. Nick Folk, just to point out, he was fantastic in the field goal game this week. I mean, tied his career long, 350-yarders. That's pretty impressive. I think our yardage total was the second most the Texans had given up. That's a good defense that we played, and we played well offensively for most of the game, even with some of the things that we did wrong. 40 rushing yards are the fewest allowed. That we've allowed, and against a team that's very heavily centered on their run game being productive. So defensively, that was really encouraging to see that, to knock the run out. And then the guys that stepped up in reserve roles, Darryl Worley did a really nice job stepping in when Hook got sick, and Jarvis and Baker continued to play really well. Jerome Baker had a good game. And then I thought Kenneth Murray, sort of under the radar, had a really, really, really nice game as I watched it again last night and this morning. Just really thought he actually had switched positions too. We moved him over to the mic and Jerome to the other spot, the dime backer, and I thought that really helped him as well. So that was good. Really, really good performance by a bunch of guys. So with that, I'll let you guys go.
Is the quarterback you've seen in the last 3 weeks, if you get that guy, is that a long-term quarterback solution for this franchise?
Yeah, I hesitate to make any proclamations of anything like that, but I've just been really happy with the way that Will's progressed. He's played winning football from that position really over the last 3 weeks, and it's just like to see it continue. And I think there's some things for Will that he can do better. There's a couple of things, just even progression-wise for him, or getting his eyes to the right spot faster, to where he could play really well. He played a really good football game. I think there's another level for him when it comes to finding the completion, taking less sacks. Some of those things were situational. I know one or two of them we were sort of in field goal range, and I was very kind of strictly instructed him to make sure we're being smart with the football, and he's just trying to make sure we didn't take any major losses. So one or two of those, he just sort of runs up in the pocket. But, I think everything that he's done, the progression he's shown, the growth that he's shown is really encouraging, and I like to keep it going. And I think there's still, again, another level that we can get to and unlock from him. So
early in the season, about some of the wild throws from the past kind of disappeared. They're very much back. What's changed that those kind of throws have reemerged?
I think there's a comfort level between Will and I in terms of the style of throws. I got a better feel for the things that he throws really well, using the players the right way for us. We've gotten better at putting those guys in better positions. And then Will's confidence to throw them. We've gotten some great looks. We've gotten exactly what we had hoped we would get on some of those long balls, and just really well executed. He's got a lot of confidence right now throwing the ball down the field, and he put a couple of really great throws, which they make him look easy sometimes, but those aren't necessarily easy throws that he made, and he put them right on the money. So more of that we can do, the better. And if you can find a way to get 7-8 explosives in a game, you're going to put yourself in a pretty good spot.
Sure, better than maybe he had prior to these last 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe, I guess, aside from the sacks, is he?
Yeah, I think he's done a nice job with that. We definitely got to get the sack numbers down. I mean, that's not something that we can't give up 8 sacks a game and feel like it's going to be good enough. So that comes from all places. That's partly on Will. It's on the line. That's on me. There's 1 or 2 of those things they had covered pretty good. They kind of forced him to hold the ball longer. And so we can all do a better job to get that part fixed. But as far as Will just playing under pressure and playing with pressure, I thought he's gotten better every time we've played this year with him. And so that's encouraging.
Maturity-wise, is he doing a better job of of not letting the highs go so high and the lows go so low? 'Cause
Yeah.
he seems calmer in every aspect.
I think that's a good observation, and I would agree with it that there's a sense of confidence and there's a sense of calmness, much more letting the game come to him, not trying to do too much, not holding the wheel too tight, just playing football. Letting your quarterback instincts take over and play the way that you need to play and take completions. And then when we get opportunities to take big ones, take the big one. But there's definitely been a growth in his approach to negative plays and his approach to his process. Those things have all been really encouraging. And when you get to the point where you get it tested, like he did against the Texans, where you throw a really critical spot, lose the lead, we're in position to go take a 2-score lead, and now we're down one. For him not to really overly react and just it was a bad play, and we got a whole lot of football left to make some good ones, and he did ultimately at the end of the game to help us win. So there's been a lot of growth for Will, I think, in a really short amount of time, and I think it's been really fun for me to see that from him, and really encouraging.
Will had mentioned how you guys.
That was a lot. Hang on. Let's go ahead, TD. Why don't you start? I'll come back.
Cool.
Yeah.
He had mentioned how you guys, tweaked a previous touchdown for NWI, and it showed up in this game.
Mm-hmm.
That process, like, how much involved is he in that process, and is that something that you guys haven't done as much previously?
No, I mean he's always involved in some of the thoughts. We hit a seam bender versus quarters against the Chargers, a very similar style, and then this one we set up the same way, and we just sort of pumped it. We sort of made it feel like we were going to try to wrap the backer in front of the safety, and we just took it vertical. I think it's good. We got a good collaboration amongst the quarterback room in general, all three of those quarterbacks, and Bo and Nick and then myself, of finding the things that we all feel really good about when it comes to generating explosive plays and marrying things off of the things that we've done, and I think we do a good job of that as a collective. And Will's always got input into that, and I know that was a play that he liked early in the game. I liked it as well, and it came up in the perfect spot.
As you see that maturity that you just mentioned, is that something that's coming more to, hey, let's do this week because I saw this?
Yeah, that's a part of it. That's growing trust too. That's me trusting what he sees and how he sees it. That's him trusting me to put the right call at the right time. And so those things have definitely built, over the last couple of weeks, and I feel really good about the feedback I get from him, and I think he would feel the same about the positions I keep trying to put him in to have success. And so it's been a good growth between the two of us, and I'm excited about that.
2-yard sacks.
Yeah.
Bill brought those up yesterday too. Is that kind of what he's instructed to do when he feels pressure, is step up, or is that kind of a play-by-play?
It's a play-by-play. I mean, there's some times where there's some things that he can probably understand better about rush patterns. Particularly when you're helping on edges. Those guys aren't going to wide rush. We're stoning a wide rush, and they're going to loop. Or as they get stoned, they get vertical, and they usually don't rush past the quarterback, so they're going to spin back inside. And so when he thinks he sees a lane, and you go to step up, you just got to understand that defensive end's coming back inside quickly. That lane's not real. It's sort of a mirage, if you will. And those are the things that he's got to better understand about, when there's a help and what the game's going to look like and where the rush lanes are going to be. And those things just come with time and playing and understanding more of that. But yeah, there's definitely some things that, particularly in field goal range, where you're just, we got points on the board. Be smart with the ball. If you don't have it, then just try to get what you can. And he was instructed to do that once or twice. So some of those things are on me more than they're on him. So that's just part of the give and take and the part of the game, understanding the situations in the game where we can be aggressive and where we don't want to be.
I think it was after the Chargers game when we talked about maybe his hesitance to get rid of the ball being a side effect of playing more within himself. Mm-hmm. And then yesterday you look at the time to throw, and it's like on the sacks it's like 3-5, and otherwise it's like 2-3, and the stark divide there. Is that like a next step for him to know that you can create a little bit, you can throw the ball away, finding out what to do after? Like, it seems like that first read, if it's there, he's all over it on time, and otherwise it drags out. There's
definitely 2 or 3 of those plays where there's part of the progression where you might find a way to get back to a guy that's either coming open or would be open. The other part of it too is just like you said, the awareness of, look, it's 1st and 10. Let's not take the sack. Just launch that thing out of bounds and let us live the fight without a loss and a sack. And again, those things there's a momentum feel to those things. There's a group morale thing when you're giving up sacks like that. Those things all factor in. And so just, take the heat off of those guys. And if you don't have it, throw it away. But those are all the things that we're still working through. And you see the improvement, and you see the things that he can still do better and help the offense out as a whole. And then there's a part of it where you start to figure out when and where you can create, and I think that part's coming for him.
So how do you attack coaching that? Is that grinding film with him and pointing out specific examples? Or are you doing something in practice in particular to?
You try to work it when you can. It's hard to simulate those things. But yeah, you try to point it out on tape as much as possible and find ways to drill it, that you can see if you can at least manufacture something that he can feel and draw on during a game. So that's all part of the process, and those are all things that Bo coaches on him a ton. Let me go back. I know you had your question.
Going back to Will and just talking about his calmness, I guess, is what you talked about. To what do you attribute that? Like, because every coach is trying to find what switch to flip with his young quarterback. Can you pinpoint exactly why or when that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I really think it was being able to take with the injury, he was sort of afforded an opportunity to step back and maybe reflect on the early part of the season and reflect on what he wanted to look like going forward. And then you get a chance to watch a guy like Mason play too, who does some veteran quarterback things, and I think a combination of all of that stuff, has really helped his perspective when he came back, and then all of a sudden you string two games together that are pretty good and improved from the last time out, and you start to gain some confidence, and now you start to see the ball get thrown with more confidence and more accuracy. So I think it's been a steady build. I can't pinpoint one thing or another that would have led to that. There was no aha moment where I think he's just really self-evaluated and done a really nice job of where he needed to improve, and I think he's done a great job of improving it.
Good problem to have, but when Cheeto is back and healthy, tough to find a place to get him on the field with Jarvis and Darryl playing well.
Yeah, those guys are doing a great job. It's certainly hard to take one off the field, but as you can see, we need guys to be ready to play, and we'll see how he comes through the practice window and make that determination. But Cheeto's a good player, and I'm glad we're going to have him available to us because we got still quite a few football games left, and we're going to need all the bodies and all the capable players we can find. So can't make any determination on that until I see him practice, but hopeful that he'd be ready to roll and be able to help us.
As to Collins, it looked maybe that Mike Brown kind of pulled off the hit just a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you see that to be the case? And I assume if that was it related to last week?
You'd have to ask him. It certainly wasn't. It certainly didn't have the same aggression that the last one did. The other thing is that he really by spotting the defense, like he should have already been there. That he's got to be under the goalpost in that particular coverage. So he's a little bit late getting to the spot, and whether he just didn't pull the trigger on the hit or wasn't as aggressive because of it, it's hard for me to say. I'll let him answer that question. But I thought we had a chance to get a shot on that ball and see if you can get the receiver out of bounds or get the ball off the body, and ultimately didn't get that part done.
Again, yesterday special teams wasn't good enough.
Sure.
You and Colt take comfort that special teams around the league were a mess yesterday and everybody's joining your train?
No, I don't take any comfort in that. We have our own issues that we've got to do a good job of. Yesterday was hard for me to quantify. You know what I mean? Where we got a kickoff return bottled up. We got arms and bodies all over him, and he somehow squirts out of it and ends up being a huge play early in the game. And those are plays we're trying to eliminate. And then Q goes to aggressively field a punt and muffs it. And if those are the mistakes that we can't have, they're critical. But I certainly don't take any comfort in anybody else having special teams issues. I think we've made a lot of improvements. I think after that kickoff, we covered really well, and they started inside their own 20 twice on coverage. They were aggressive to take the ball out. But those things are things that we can't have if we want to be a really good football team. And anytime you turn the ball over in any phase is not good. So we got to find ways to continue to get better. I do think our punt coverage and our punt protection has really gotten better. We've done a really nice job covering. I think Bryce Oliver stepped up in a big way too in some of those gunner reps. But certainly things we got to be better at. And I don't take any solace or comfort in anybody else's mishaps. I just know that we got to play better than we have, and we can't have those errors.
Been a around a position coach or a coordinator who has had as much go wrong as Colt has had this year, and why is he unable? You're saying he's able to fix one area, then a problem's popping up in another area, and it seems like there's no fixing.
Yeah, there's been things that we've done well. We've fixed some issues. We've fixed our punt protection. We've fixed the punt coverage. Those things have been really a lot better over the last handful of weeks. But I feel like that's sort of what our team has done this year in general in all three phases, where there's been you fix one thing and now all of a sudden another problem shows up, and we've had this sort of inconsistency throughout the course of the season that's led to some of the games that we felt like we had chances to win that we didn't. And turnovers is certainly one part of it. We give up some of those red zone touchdowns. There's been areas across the entire team where we're trying to fix one problem and another one pops up, and the good teams in the league do what we did yesterday. We played like a good football team when it came to overcoming mistakes and finding ways to fight through those things. But then there's also the teams that are going to be in it at the end are the ones that don't make those mistakes. And we've got to find ways to not make those mistakes in all phases. I mean, we've had plenty of them on offense, defense, and special teams. So it's not a one phase problem or a one person thing. It's all of us trying to do a better job to make sure we're more consistent in all the phases of the game.
Consider sitting Jaquan after the fumble. I know some coaches have a relationship with that.
That's generally not my philosophy, for the same reason. It's if a quarterback throws interception, you just go out and throw it again. I think you show guys that you got belief in them, and they tend to respond that way most of the time. There's a time and a place for that, certainly. I'm not saying that's never going to happen, but you got to go out there and field the ball, and you got to make a play with the ball when you get a chance. And I'm not a huge believer in just like shutting a guy down because he made a mistake. We need everybody on our roster to play and play well, and so get back out there and do it again.
Does it get kind of frustrating though? Because it seems like it's almost at a point now where, hey, you field the ball and don't fumble it. Mm-hmm. That's an accomplishment, as opposed to like looking for a big return, especially with the the coverage unit giving up so many returns.
Yeah, I mean we're trying to find more. I think there's some things that Q's done well, and there's some things he's got to do better when it comes to returning. I wouldn't say. I mean, he hasn't had a problem necessarily fielding the ball. He's gotten hit a few times and put it on the ground. So those to me are two sort of different entities. But if he was having a major problem catching the ball, then we'd certainly look for someone to go in there and catch the ball better if that was the case. I just think he made an aggressive decision in the game to go up and try to field it and return it. I'm trying to make a play, and if you do that, you got to make it. If you make that decision, you got to go make the play, and he didn't in that particular spot, and that's a big error.
Would you like somebody to return the ball better?
What's that?
Wouldn't you like somebody to return the ball better?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to get more out of our return game, certainly. We've had some good moments and not enough of them. We're still working to find ways to generate more in the return game when we can.
Just to be clear on the special teams thing entirely, sorry.
Yeah.
You're saying we fix one problem, another one crops up, and you're making it sound like it's the same as offense and defense. Do you regard special teams problems in the same basket as problems you've had on offense and defense this year?
Well, I think there's moments where they've been very similar. Yeah, I mean we've made sort of game-killing plays on offense that have lost us games, just like we've done on special teams. And so those things it's all three phases play together, and you got to be able to complement each other. And there's been times where we've done that well, and there's been times where we haven't. And when you give up returns, you're not helping your defense. You're putting them in bad spots. When you turn the ball over, you're not helping your defense. You're putting them in a bad spot. And then when we get put in a bad spot, we've given up touchdowns instead of holding people to field goals or standing up too many times. So all those things work together, and they're all the same. I mean, the team has to play a complementary brand of football, and we have to be able to overcome an error, and we'd like to not make errors and put our other phases in bad spots. And so all that stuff, to me, works together.
Seems like we very rarely asked you about Latham this year. What was a little different yesterday? Was it just the speed he was having an issue with, you think? Or?
No, that definitely wasn't his. That's the first time in a long time he's had a game where you noticed it. It wasn't his best game. I think he gave up the one sack early, and I think he had trouble sort of rebounding from it and just kind of getting back into the flow of the game, and just kind of one of those games for a rookie, or going against a guy that he's played against and knows well. It was playing against a good player. And he got the better of him a few times, and those things happen. Guys get beat, but that game yesterday was not JC's best game by far, and need to be better than he was.
Bobby, on the other side, yesterday was just saying, do you expect to get Leroy back in the mix this week?
Yeah, we'll see. Not totally sure where he'll be at. We'll know more on Wednesday. By the time those guys get back and get ready to work for the week. So no real update on Leroy yet. We'll just sort of see. We got another day and a half or whatever until he gets back to graded practice. So we'll see where that goes.
Really emphasize.
How do you think Nick was on the other side?
I thought Nick did a good job. I think that was probably one of his better games. JC had a dip, and I think Nick had an uptick. I think he played better in this game than he has in the last few, so that was encouraging. It was good. I thought he did some good things.
You guys really emphasize staying ahead of the sticks, ahead of this one, and talking about how on 3rd and 7 this team had been putting a lot of teams away. You guys converted 4 of 10, I think, from 3rd or 7 long yesterday. Was that a big part of the game plan, and how did you feel that they executed on when they did get behind the sticks?
Yeah, you go 40% on 3rd and long, you're doing all right. That's pretty dang good. We hit some big ones on the 3rd and longs that didn't want to be there, and I think for the most part during the game we've found ourselves into manageable spots. But yeah, when you get a chance to convert those long ones, those are sort of backbreaking too for a defense. When you give up a 3rd and 12 or a 3rd and 14 and you give up a 63-yard post route, those are kind of a punch in the gut on a defense. So being able to convert those was great. I would have liked to have not been in those spots as often as we were. We were trying not to be. But when you get in those spots, you got to make the most of it. And going 40% on 3rd and 7+ or whatever it was is a good day when you're in those spots. And again, we didn't want to be there, but I thought we executed well when we had to.
Andre Sweat, and just given the supposed character issues coming in, how do you feel he's done to kind of debunk them with you guys, with all the research and stuff that you did going into the pick?
Yeah, I think it's less of debunking and more of confirming for us. We felt really good about the person. We felt really good about the background. We did our homework on him. He was vetted very, very, very thoroughly. And we came away with a player and a person that we really liked and thought he had all the right makeup. Some unfortunate circumstances might have led others to believe differently. But he's been everything that I thought he would be when we drafted him. And I think if you ask Rand, he'd feel the same way. He's a phenomenal person. He's a great personality. He plays hard. All the things that were sort of red flagged on him during the draft process were not things that we were as concerned about. And I think it's pretty awesome that he's confirmed for us that we've everything we believed in, he's given us and shown us, and that's really cool. And on top of that, we did a really good job, I think, organizationally, putting a structure around him that allowed him to succeed. We worked really hard to make sure, from conditioning with Zach and the performance staff to Lauren and the nutrition, all of those things were all put in place for him. There was a structure in place for him to be successful, and he's taken advantage of it. And I think he's been everything I hoped he would be, and from a personality standpoint, as a person and as a player.
Simmons being there, how much did him being a part of that structure and being a tangible guy that he could be right next to, how much did that help?
I think that's what makes the situation even more unique, is that Jeff has been looking for a guy like Sweat to play with. He's wanted that kind of running mate inside, and a guy that he knows is going to be able to take up double teams and make his job easier. But Jeff's a fantastic leader in that room on top of it, and he wouldn't let it's like if you're going to play next to Jeff, there's an expectation and a standard, and he wasn't going to let Sweat fall below that. And I think you're seeing the benefits of having a guy like Jeff next to him, and the impact he's had on him as a veteran player to a young player, and that's what we hope for.
End up clearing up?
Yeah, he just 24-hour kind of bug, flu, whatever you want to call it. He should be good to go.